Advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. Host Stokely Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, U.S. listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live in the main watch. The current state of the People's National Party. And in the second watch, the future of energy in everything. For our social media question, we ask, how practical and possible is it for us to go fully electric with everything? Share your responses on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your comments later on in the program, but first, as I quote.
This morning's I quote, "You always pass failure on the way to success." Mikey Rooney.
Yes, Mr. Rooney is correct. I believe him. The main watch will be back after this break.
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your worth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station, Love 101.
Here's a vaccination message from Love 101 FM. When taking the AstraZeneca vaccine, you will need to take 2 doses administered 8 to 14 weeks apart. The Pfizer vaccine, 2 doses administered approximately 3 weeks apart, while the Johnson & Johnson is just a single dose. My name is Deidre Parchment, encouraging you to get vaccinated. Let's get vaccinated and get back to life.
The newlyweds. They just got married and they're learning all about the Simeon Come Live With Me phenomenon. This 5th Thursday in the Truly Marvelous program To Have and To Hold, Love 101 will present The Newlyweds, where we will hear the love story, the engagement, their COVID-19 wedding, their illusion versus reality of marriage, sharing space and so much more from newlyweds O'Shane and Jamila Williams from the Church of God of Prophecy located on Maxfield Avenue and owners of OJ Productions. That's the Newlyweds. We will hear their story in To Have and To Hold with host Colleen Beckles, and it happens this Thursday, September 30 at 5:30 p.m. right here on Love 101, the family station.
Hey, small people, do you love your grandparents? What have your grandparents taught you that you'll never forget? This Wednesday, September 29, we open the phone lines at 4 p.m. inside the Small People Show with Auntie Colleen. And you'll get to call in and share some of your memories of things you do with your grandparents. Remember now, this Wednesday, September 29 at 4 p.m. in the Small People Show with Auntie Colleen. It's all about your grandmother and your grandfather. What's that link you love and adore? Share it right here on Love 101, the family station.
is a vaccination message from Love 101 FM. How to make your vaccine appointment. Step 1. Visit the Jam COVID application portal at jamcovid19.moh.gov.jm and select vaccination. Step 2. Enter your mobile phone number. Step 3. A one-time password will be sent to your mobile phone via SMS. Enter this code on the site to authenticate your account. Step 4. Fill in the information requested. Choose a vaccination center and then schedule a date and time convenient to you. Step 5. You will receive an SMS confirmation of your appointment. And step 6. Arrive at the selected test center 15 minutes before the appointment time and carry your identifications as specified. Late arrivals or lack of identification will result in cancellation of your appointment and you may have to rebook a new appointment. My name is Venetia Edwards Hunter from Love 101, encouraging you to get vaccinated. Let's get vaccinated and get back to life.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are now in the main watch. And the question on the minds of many persons is, what is happening at this time in the People's National Party? There have been many reports of events happening with the People's National Party that cause many persons to ask the question, what is the current state of the party? And how is it being perceived by the wider public? What might be happening internally? We have online today to take a look as best as possible at this particular topic in terms of the issues involved. Bishop Pharaoh Steve Blair, host of The Rock on Love 101 FM, and pastor of the Gateway Deliverance Center. We also have online Mr. Peter Townsend, president of the National Democratic Movement. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you both?
Well, we're still trying to get them, Stokely.
Well, listeners, just taking a look, for example, at recent Gleaner editorial, and just Thursday, September 16th, 2021, I'll look at a little bit of it here. It is real, well, it is captioned, editorial, PNP faces bigger issues. PNP faces bigger issues. And there's a photograph here of Mark Golding. It reads under the picture, Mark Golding celebrates with fellow comrades at PNP headquarters on Old Hope Road in St. Andrew in November 2020 after he was elected the president of the party. Now, I'll read a little bit of it. Throwing the open vote for its leader to all its members rather than a privilege exercised by selected delegates could well give new impetus to the floundering People's National Party. Not my words, those are the words of the Gleaner editorial. It would certainly be a far more democratic way for the party to conduct its business, which is always a good thing. And the second paragraph of the editorial is quite interesting. It ends by saying in the last line of the second paragraph, the opposition party's greater problem is its intellectual funk, its absence of ideas and constructive debate. In more recent headlines, persons would have learned about the expulsion of a Karen Cross from the party. And that's not the only thing which is grabbing the attention of the media. People still seem to have the impression that there is a rift within the party, perhaps not as glaring and perhaps not as serious, some might argue, as it was before, but nevertheless a rift anyway. And there is also the question of the identity of the party. Is it a party which still promotes and keeps out front and center democratic socialism, or is the guiding philosophy something else? And you will speak to different persons in the party. Some of them appear to be quite committed and wedded and identify with democratic socialism. Others appear not so much so. Shivani, do we now have online any of our guests for today, whether it is Bishop Blair or Mr. Diamond, or we're having a challenge with the line?
Well, both are with us, Stokely.
Both are with us now. Bishop Blair, Steve,
My brother,
how are you, sir?
I'm wonderful, thank you. Good morning to you, and good morning, Jamaica.
Mr. Diamond? Mr. Diamond? We're not hearing him. However, Bishop Blair, as best as you can, sir, in the time we have before the break, sorry that you came on so late, what would you sum up in a nutshell the current state of the People's National Party? And it's not to bash the party or to say ill of the party. It is a well-established and highly revered party amongst many Jamaicans. But what would you say is the current state of the party? What is really happening at this time, in your view?
Well, let's put it this way. What appears to be the current state of the party? Because I think what needs to take place is a matter of perhaps PR, a matter of imposition of leadership. Because at the end of the day, what the public perceives comes across as the reality of what is taking place. So to say that many people are calling for the resignation of the leader and whatever reasons they may be given does not have to be where the situation is, but it must come down to what they decide and how they decided they want the public to perceive them. That for me, as a trained journalist, is what I'm looking at. So it comes across perhaps that they're not doing as much as they need to, that they're probably still divided. It comes across that they're not standing with a united voice behind the leader, and that there are still situations taking place. Do we blame the leader for all of this after a year? Not necessarily. What the leader has been trying to do, and what we do see taking place is that people who are in support of his vision and his plan seem to be moving forward or being placed into a position. And, well, I've pastored two churches, and one of the things you learn in pastoring a church is you don't go in and make sweeping changes. You don't go in and just put in everybody that you want initially, because you create further enemies. So I can see him doing the same thing in trying to take his time. And we also do see, I believe, for the first in a long time, a leader who has been coming out on a few issues in the public. So he's trying to create in the minds of the people that he is going to take a stand against some of the decisions that the man that we call Brogard is making. And not just in the parliament, but also in the public.
Let us see if we can have a quick word from Peter Townsend, President of the NDM. Please forgive the error in the in how you were referred to earlier, sir. Mr. Townsend, in a moment before we head to the break, what is happening with the PNP at this time?
Good morning, Mr. Stokely. Good morning to Bishop Blair, and good morning to your listeners.
Good morning, Peter. It's been a while. Morning.
Yes, it's been a while indeed. The PNP has a number of issues. Sorry. One of them is the fact that, to begin with, parties in opposition tend to be a little bit more fractious, tend to be divided, and tend to have been fighting. If you look back at the history in recent times, during the tenure of Serra under the JLP, and even under Holness after he lost the 2011 elections, they had their own internal wranglings. But
so, Mr. Townsend, you're saying that what is happening now is not so odd. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm just saying because of a number of issues, and one of them is
Hold that thought, Mr. Townsend. Okay. Hold that thought, Mr. Townsend. We're going to head to the break, and then we continue afterwards. Stay with us, listeners. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Between 2015 and 2020, there were 74,455 reports of child abuse in Jamaica. Report child abuse. Call 211.
The time brought to you by Child Protection Services is
7:16.
Stay informed and keep up to date with all the happenings locally, regionally, and internationally. Follow My Jamaica Today on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Also check us out at jamaicatoday.com as we bring you all the information you need wherever you are, with fearless and factual reporting on politics, world news, business, entertainment, sports, and lifestyle. It's My Jamaica Today, Jamaica's first digital media house, only 3 clicks away.
NIS pensioners, avoid the wait. Get your NIS pension straight to your bank account. It's easy. Simply visit the Ministry of Labour and Social Security's website, mlss.gov.jm, or the nearest NIS office and collect the direct deposit application form. Then complete the form and submit it along with supporting documents to the NIS office nearest you. Avoid crowds and long lines. Get your money when you want it. The National Insurance Scheme, always working for you.
DIGICEL. First in a class when you have Digicel. School as Prime Bundle. That's right, with your educational website, make you bright. Head to the top of your class with your first Digicel SIM and a School as Prime Bundle. Get over 142 gigabytes of data so you can have access to educational sites, social media platforms, Digicel apps, and more for as low as $1,500 for 28 days. Get a School as Prime Bundle with your first Digicel SIM card. Visit a Digicel store today. DIGICEL.
So you've been told you can't really move and you're wondering what to do with all this stay-at-home time. Stop waiting and start creating with Berger Paint. That's right. Get 15% off all Berger paints so you can use that stay-at-home time to stay creative and make your home a colorful, wonderful, feel almost new kind of home. Get your hands on Berger and get your 50% off today, because with Berger, creativity begins at home. Berger, for lasting beauty and protection.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are in the main watch. We're looking at the current state of the People's National Party, and our guests are Bishop Pero Steve Blair, host of The Rock on Love 101 FM, pastor of the Gateway Deliverance Center, and also Peter Townsend, president of the National Democratic Movement. Mr. Townsend, just before the break, you were enumerating in a nutshell the various things that can occur to a party when it's in opposition. Please continue, sir.
Right. So parties in opposition tend to be fractious and divided. But PNP in particular has some serious issues. To begin with, they have still not recovered from 2 consecutive divisive leadership elections that have left a lot of bitterness and rancor, where people seem to literally hate each other. Arising out of that. That challenge by Peter Phillips of Portia Simpson Miller, and then the challenge of Peter Phillips by Peter Bunting. And a lot of comrades feel that even though Mark Golding is a nice and likable guy, they feel that he is a proxy for Peter Bunting, who is not so liked in the PNP. So that has added to the fuel to the fire rather, plus the fact that there are really no ideological difference between the PNP and the JLP. Gone are the days when one was seen as a socialist and one was seen as a capitalist, free market party. There are really no ideological differences between the two now. And also the fact that the PNP doesn't seem to have a clear philosophy that is guiding it. Then there is one matter of power fatigue. The PNP was in power for 18 and a half years. And so people are seeing a lot happen under the PNP. And so when the PNP criticize the government now for a lot of issues that the people find them to be complicit to as well, it rings pretty hollow. And so they get no traction. And so those are some of the main issues that are affecting the PNP, plus the fact that opposition parties tend to wait for government to get unpopular for them to now get into office. And the incumbent government seems to be out-PRing the PNP. The PNP has always been very good at public relations. They have always had people strategically placed in the media houses and in general certain public positions that they can speak for the party. The JLP seems to beat the PNP pretty much at its own game in terms of public relations at this time.
Very interesting. Mr. Blair, Bishop Blair, your thoughts?
Well, that is exactly what I was saying earlier. I was saying that the whole thought of the public perception being created by the PNP is not what they were accustomed to. And certainly I like that point, because what we've seen in the JLP is an entrustment of power on young people to move, especially in the social media. The PNP still have some of their people in the media, but the thing is, social media is carrying the swing and carrying the modern day PR in a very strong way. But as I said before, Peter, we do see Mark stepping up in front of the camera quite a bit, trying to make a statement. The sad thing is that though people may be less happy with the JLP now compared to a year ago, in regards to the COVID matters and the effects of COVID, according to the recent surveys, the PNP they've spoken out about the COVID issues, but they don't have much more, except for perhaps crime that they've been trying to run with. And for some reason, that has not caught the ear of the people the way it should. So that issue, I think, is a really big one.
And it's hard for the PNP to run. It's hard for the PNP to run with crime, because both political parties are perceived to be somehow not have done a good job with crime by virtue of their connections. I mean, we all know the garrison politics and the political tribalism and, the brand name gangs that are associated with the political parties. It would be seen as hypocritical for any of these parties to criticize another where this is concerned. And the gangs, as we all know, contribute significantly towards crime in Jamaica. And until the two parties disband one another and the Klansman gang and totally disassociate themselves from them and throw them under the bus and allow the police to take care of them. Whatever they say about crime,
you said until the parties disband the gang?
Could you, well...
You said until the parties disband the gang?
Well, disassociate themselves from them, because they have been known for over the years. Yes, they have been known over the years that, I mean, you can ask any blind person, any young person, the names of the infamous gangs in Jamaica. And if you ask them which parties are they affiliated to, they can tell you. It's no secret. We will try to be cautious, and because of fear, we will not want to say it. But
so you said disband. You said disband. Because you said disband. That's why I asked.
Well, yeah. Well, if they disassociate themselves from them and allow the system to do its job, I believe that they'll be disbanded. I believe if the two political parties had the will and the determination, and they decide that, look, we're going to lose some of these safe seats that are shored up by the garrison system. If they decide to really put the country first and the people first, sincerely, and forget seats in the garrisons, I believe that these gangs will be disbanded.
Of course, these are not necessarily the views of the National Religious Media Commission, owners and operators of Love 101 FM. But I want to spend a little bit of time looking at the whole matter of the identity of both, well, the identity of the People's National Party. Is it a Democratic Party or is it something else? Bishop Blair and then Peter.
Well, I was about to make a statement which probably might help. Peter, who I interviewed many years ago on Love TV, I respect his mindset, but he said something I think is very important. there is not much of a difference between the two parties. What the PNP needs to do at this time is to start making public statements about their way forward, about what they want to present. They've been known to be a party that brings out concepts and ideas that can enhance the lives of poor people. They do need to come out and say, well, yes, we are that party. Whether they are a democratic socialist or not, we've already heard from Peter that there's not much difference. And we've seen that over the years. The difference between the two parties, normally in the last few years, have come down to the two leaders. It's not very much where people are saying that the PNP is like the Democrats in America and the JLP are like the Republicans or blah, blah, blah. The PNP needs to come out, establish that identity. That's what Mark has to do. He has to come out and say, this is what we're presenting to the Jamaican people. This is the way forward. These are our strategies. This is what we have to say about crime, and this is what we have to say about the economy. Once that is done, then we'll begin to see a reaction from the people. So the good old opposition way of coming forward and saying what the government is saying is wrong, what the government is saying is not going anywhere, what the government is blah, 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 is not the way they need to go at this time. There is room for them to come out and say, this is our way forward. And once that is done, they may be able to get the mind of the people, especially after 1 year of this government running forward, especially with COVID not giving the government the full opportunities to do what they say they want to do. This is a chance for the PNP to say, despite COVID, this is how we move forward.
Well, and I suppose for them to come out and say this is our identity, they need to settle amongst themselves what that identity is.
Right.
Mr. Townsend, your thoughts?
Not just what the identity is, but they need to settle among themselves their differences, because people don't want to go forward as a divided party.
Understood, Steve. Peter, your thoughts?
Yeah, the difference, their internal differences carries a very bitter undertone that seem to be, wrapped in, steeped in hatred and not about policies and direction and philosophy, or ideology. And speaking of ideology, yes, the PNP used to be a socialist party, left-leaning.
So it no longer is. It no longer is. You're saying it no longer is.
Apart from calling themselves comrades, as Russians still and Cubans call themselves in terms of the Communist Party, they really are not. They under the leadership of during the tenure of Peter Phillips as finance minister, and Portia Simpson Miller as prime minister, and even to some extent under PJ Patterson, they have really pursued policies that are more free market and more centrist than leftist. And so I really don't see the PNP as any socialist party anymore. In fact, the JLP, which was more seen as a more right-leaning party, has gone more center, and Andrew Holness's policies, free education and healthcare and other things that he has pushed seems more, they seem to be a little more left of the PNP. Practically speaking, if you really ask me about it, and so there's no difference between them in terms of left or right. I think they're both centrist party. As far as I see it, there's no philosophical difference, and PNP is a socialist party, except for the fact that they want to believe that, and they keep saying it, that they are socialists and that they are comrades. But other than in name, their actions and their policies that they have pursued in the last term as government does not seem to fit the description of a socialist party.
Wish we had more time, but I think we're totally out of time. I think we need to leave it there, gentlemen. The current state of the People's National Party. Listeners, thanks for being with us in this segment. That was Bishop Hero Steve Blair, and host of the Rock on Love 101 and pastor of the Gateway Deliverance Center. And we also had Peter Townsend, president of the National Democratic Movement. Gentlemen, thanks for your time and for your thoughts. We appreciate it.
Thank you. We need a strong opposition to have a good government. Thank you so much.
Indeed.
Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Now with no processing fees and no down payment, it's time to open the door to your own sweet home. The time by JN Bank is
7:30.
Munchie! Yes, Boss I'm heading out now. Straight to Cars Auto a Montego Bay.
The entire Jamaica is heading to Cars Auto.
About variety, aye there. And the vehicle them clean as a whistle, and the price right. A two where them say good quality, best price.
Cars Auto.
211 is a hotline dedicated to reporting child abuse. It is easy to remember and accessible 24 hours a day across all networks. Report all forms of child abuse: sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional, neglect, and trafficking. Our children are depending on us to protect them. If you see something, make the call. Report child abuse. Call 211.
"49 years later and still going strong, Under the Law helps you to know your rights and how the laws of Jamaica can help you defend those rights. The program is brought to you on Wednesdays by the Bank of Jamaica, building an inclusive economy. Under the Law, Wednesdays at 6:20 a.m., 2:35, 6:45, and 9:10 p.m. on Love 101 FM.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. Let's take a look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have here in the Jamaica Observer, among the latest news, Grenada Prime Minister deeply touched by COVID-19 deaths. The Rio St. James Pastor rape case heads to Circuit Court, and PNP questions status of Royal Reed's leave from Jamaica College. We have here in the Gleaner, opposition questions Royal Reed's leave arrangement. We also have a number of other things here. Government allocates COVID incentive payment for healthcare workers, and Samuda mom on Tapia's claim background check was run on VAS. And those and many other stories in both major daily newspapers. Coming up next, we'll read for you some of the feedback from our Facebook and WhatsApp question, which is, how practical and possible is it for us to go fully electric with everything? If you haven't done so yet, leave your responses in our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica. So I'm sorry, YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
Hey, small people, do you love your grandparents? What have your grandparents taught you that you'll never forget? This Wednesday, September 29, we open the phone lines at 4 p.m. inside the Small People Show with Auntie Colleen. And you'll get to call in and share some of your memories of things you do with your grandparents. Remember now, this Wednesday, September 29 at 4 p.m. in the Small People Show with Auntie Colleen. It's all about your grandmother and your grandfather. What's that link you love and adore? Share it right here on Love 101, the family station.
I am a man, yes, to be a strong man, integrity man, I am a man.
It's National Senior Citizens Week, and we're using this week's episode of The Mailbox to honor our elders. Join us inside The Mailbox Wednesday, September 29 at 5:30 p.m. as we zero in on the tales of a grand and great-grandfather. They will share their story, the generational difference between millennials and their mindset. We'll also find out if grandfathers can raise their grandchildren. Come and hear what Grandpa has to say. The phone lines will be open for you to call in and honor your granddad. The Mailbox with guests were made and hosted by Kevin Bailey and Courtney Morrison. This Wednesday, September 29 at 5:30 p.m. We're saluting our senior citizens.
to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. Good morning, anyone. Did any comments on the
Yes,
feedback
let me
question?
go to this voice note from one of our listeners in St. Thomas, Phyllis.
Good morning, Stokey. You know what I say, away from getting the PMP together, what I'm saying, and it's getting to my head, is this oppose, you don't mind you oppose, but resign, and then you come back and apologize, say you didn't get it right or whatever. I think you need to get it right before you say resign. No problem in resigning, but make sure you get your facts together, because sometimes the facts are not there. Stoke, it's going to be impossible for us to go totally electric, because sometimes like lock off for a day or two. Sometimes you have no electricity, so how would you manage? No, until public service or whoever take over the company is up on top, 100%.
Very interesting comment there, Siobhan. Any more? That's it for now.
That's it for now.
I see. Interesting indeed. It's hard to predict the future, but what would the future of energy look like? Say in the next 20 to 30 years from now, it's expected that it will be significantly different, but how different? And how will it impact us and our transport, homes, communication, society at large? We have online this morning to have a conversation around this topic of, the whole matter of energy and future and electricity. We have online to discuss it Mr. Michael Diamond. He is the president of Consumers Intervention Jamaica, and we also have online Raphael Gayle. He is qualified in the areas to include building and construction management, and he owns a company in relation to logistics, which is involved with trucking. And so this is a topic which would definitely be of interest to him. Mr. Diamond, Mr. Gayle, good morning, gentlemen. How are you both?
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Great having you both. Interesting. First of all, I'm going to start with you, Mr. Diamond. The whole matter of a future where almost everything, or literally everything, would be run with electricity, including motor vehicles. That would include vehicles, cars, buses, trucks, everything in the house, to include, cooking and doing almost everything. We do use electricity already for lighting predominantly, but many things are not using that. We use gas, for example, in cooking. Many persons do that. Petrol used to run motor vehicles. But it would appear as if there is a tilt in the direction of going fully electric. How do you think this would strike persons, Mr. Diamond, especially from the perspective of the consumer?
Well, this is a very timely topic, because as I also listened to that voice note, and it shows the perception of our consumers that there's an unreliability where it comes to electricity. And when we're now speaking about electric vehicles and the advancements that this will carry with it, we then have to take a serious look at our infrastructure and also at our regulations where this is concerned. Of course, this is a tremendous opportunity for us to. This is a tremendous opportunity because we know that it also has the benefits of being cleaner and safer for our environment. Yet, it's also a disruptor. There's going to have to be much consumer and public education where this is concerned, because we will have an entire sector that can be eliminated when electric vehicles become the norm, because we're talking about the fact that there's no combustible engine, there's no more changing of timing belts, etc. As far as that is concerned, and many of these mechanics have not advanced their studies, I would say, because many individuals are going to be caught complacent because they don't imagine that this will be the way of the future, simply because when we consider how much alternative sources of power are currently available in Jamaica on a consistent basis, on a national basis, it is not enough for this conversation. It's not enough individuals who are taking up solar technologies. We have new constructions, and it is not mandated that new construction should have alternative technologies implemented as a part of this. So, there is this idea that yes, it is good for the future, but what are we doing now to make that an actual reality?
Interesting. And one of the concerns as well is we know that, for example, they use, um, you know, in producing electricity, they have to use fuel, and
Hmm.
won't fuel still be used in the production of all this electricity to power all these various things? Let's try to bring in here Mr. Gale. Mr. Gale, your thoughts, sir?
Yes. This can you hear me?
Mr. Gale?
So, if you have just one system of electricity, you don't have redundancy. So, say you have a disaster like a hurricane or a earthquake, this will throw a wrench in your whole system. So I believe it's better to have more redundancy with parallel streams of technology that will be more robust and reliable in the event
I'm sorry, Mr. Gale, but there's a little bit of a challenge hearing you. We're trying our best, but I think what you're trying to say is that we need to have parallel sources of energy, and that, in other words, have an alternative in case one fails. Is that what you're trying to say, sir?
Exactly. Because we have an event in Texas where we had a snap freeze that was out of the ordinary, and we were relying on solar panels that got snow cover, and we were relying on wind turbines that got iced over on the blades. So with 25% of Texas relying on that, we had a disaster in our hands. So I think it's better to have a mix where at least you might reduce production, but you don't go negative or zero out, where we have people on life support or oxygen, like my father, that it's a matter of life and death that the electricity is on.
Very interesting. We're almost upon a break, but one of the concerns that has been raised in relation to, not going fully electric is that the environment would benefit, if we went fully electric. Do you share that view, gentlemen? You firstly, Mr. Diamond, followed by Mr. Gilden before I head to the break. Mr. Diamond?
Yes, definitely. There are concerns, especially because of the fact that oftentimes we are too busy looking at the benefits, but not looking at when those benefits can actually be realized. And the production of electric vehicles, again, that will affect our environment because of the resources that needs to be harnessed in order to make it possible. But we're looking at the long term, and in the long term, over a period of time, it will eventually be more cost effective and actually more benefits to our environment.
I see, Mr. Gale. Environmental impact?
Yes, when you have electric vehicles, you also have the same combustion at the power plant. And then you're relying on the transmission lines and infrastructure to get to the charging point. So to have all electric, we're going to have to increase the trunk lines and the maintenance and cost of all of that. And then if you have a wind event or a disaster that breaks your trunk line, the whole system is overturned. So
interesting. Hold that thought 1 second, Mr. Gale. Hold that thought 1 second, Mr. Gale. We are upon a break. We'll continue those comments afterwards. Stay with us, listeners. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
This is Love 101 at 7:45.
We all know we should set aside money for a rainy day. Here are some tips to help build your emergency fund. Don't mix your emergency savings account with any other account. The harder it is to access, the more likely you will be to leave the money there. Set up automatic deposits to keep your contributions consistent. Avoid high-risk investments and consider options like low-risk unit trust funds.
Visit barita.com/opportunities for more growth coach insights.
From generation to generation, Jamaicans have depended on J&B Bank to make the pride and joy of providing a safe place for their families possible. Now, with no processing fees and no down payment mortgage options, you can open the door to your own sweet home, a legacy to hand to your next generation. Visit jnbank.com to get pre-approved today. J&B Bank will help you find a way.
The Ministry of Health and Wellness is advising pregnant and breastfeeding mothers to get vaccinated against COVID-19. This is in line with recommendations from the World Health Organization and having regard to evidence which suggests that pregnant women with COVID-19 are at higher risk of developing severe illness compared with non-pregnant women of reproductive age. COVID-19 in pregnancy has also been associated with an increased risk of preterm birth and of newborns requiring neonatal intensive care. Pregnant women who are 35 years and older or have high body mass index or an existing comorbidity such as diabetes or hypertension are at particular risk of serious outcomes from COVID-19. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokes and Marshall. We are in the second watch, and our guests are Michael Diamond, President of the Consumers Intervention Jamaica, and Raphael Gayle, who is degreed in the area of building and construction management, and he owns a company involved in logistics, in trucking in particular. And our topic today is the future of energy in everything. And Mr. Gayle, you were outlining for us a number of issues, very relevant issues in relation to going forward in that direction. Would you like to continue, sir?
Yes. So for instance, California, they're very advanced in electrical transmission and electrical cars and the technology involved. And in San Francisco, they have Tesla. They build them there, they test them and everything. But California has brownouts. They cannot maintain the power grid certain times of year when they have wind events that hamper the transmission of power. So whereas it is a good idea to have electric car to have better, say, smog rates in LA, but if you can't go to work because your car wasn't charged because you have brownouts, it's a very sad thing. So I think it'd be better and more robust to have parallel streams of technology where you can have something to fall back on. I'm not saying to ban all electric, but yes, we need to go ahead with everything at once. And I think over time, the best things will rise to the top and we will succeed that way.
Yes, you see, even though you have flashlights, it doesn't mean that you throw away all the candles and the matches. You know what I mean? I understand exactly what you mean. Have parallels so that in case you need to fall back on something, you can. So in a nutshell, what would you say are the advantages and the disadvantages of going fully electric? Starting with you, Mr. Diamond, certainly from a consumer's angle, and then Mr. Gayle from a more technical angle. What would you say are some of the advantages and disadvantages, Mr. Diamond, going in terms of going the direction of fully electric, sir?
Okay, well, we know the fact that in a general answer to that is that yes, we will protect our environment more. Yes, it will be safer at some extent. But the reality is that within the Jamaican framework is that the advantage is that yes, we will be introducing technologies that can, help us to move away from the type of environmental damage that we've been doing. But also the disadvantage of that is we have very poor regulations where these things are concerned, and we have very poor, poor of non-existent when it comes down to the fact that electric vehicles will require disposable, we have to dispose batteries. Now, currently, Jamaica does not have a proper disposal mechanism in place. So, can this technology, can this sector, in building it, basically forces us to now implement these policies and bring these things into existence? So, the advantage is that it can create opportunities for us to put the necessary policies in place and to be more focused on the environmental impact of what we have done in the past. So in the future, we can be better. So there's a plus and minus because, again, our national grid as is in a development stage. It needs to be revamped. And when we're looking at going completely electric, we have to look at the fact that, I do agree there needs to be a parallel because we can't go completely electric if we don't have that, what if in place so that in the event that there is such a event that electricity might be out for an extended period of time, how will that affect us? So we have to look at the fact that we're putting new construction in place and we're not requiring them to have alternative energies. How many of these structures actually have, wall mounts that we can actually charge electric vehicles currently? So many individuals seem to be having this wait and see attitude rather than let's do it now because we know that's what's happening tomorrow. So again, the opportunities are there for us to move forward with the technology. The disadvantage is the fact that we have yet to really take that up as a goal, for us to actually begin to implement and educate and prepare our nation for such an event.
Interesting. Mr. Gayle, from the angle in terms of a more technical angle, you are involved in logistics and trucks. And what do you see as some of the advantages and disadvantages from the angle of someone who is involved in business, in transportation, distribution, production? What are some of the advantages and disadvantages that you see?
So my biggest cost, I use diesel primarily. So my biggest
use what?
cost,
Diesel. You use diesel, you said?
It's diesel. Diesel.
Okay.
Yes. So my biggest cost is diesel. For the whole company, it's always fuel. So I would love to transition over to electric and drop that bill. They have spent $70,000 a year in fuel for one truck, for one unit. I would love to drop the cost and go to electric and charge, but so far we don't have the range. I need to be able to drive 600 miles a day minimum. I need to have that range in the truck. So with electric vehicles, as far as I've surveyed the market, we only have like 250, and if we try and get 400, the whole truck is too heavy. So the technology is not ripe yet for long distance trucks. Now, short distance local deliveries, stuff like that, where you don't drive that many miles a day and you can charge overnight or whatever. Yes, the technology is ripe for that. And we also need to have some kind of, like he was referring to Mr. Diamond, about recycling the batteries and be able to isolate different batteries that are going bad and replace them in a manner that's efficient and low cost, and be able to recycle batteries. Yes, definitely, that is very important. But I think we're still in the early stage of this technology. We haven't keyed in on the best battery type yet, and that's probably something that's always going to be evolving over time.
Understood.
Hello?
Now, a lot of vehicles, as they're currently, well, most vehicles now use petrol. And if you were to go fully electric, you touched on something earlier, both of you, well, particularly you, Mr. Gayle, the whole matter of charging overnight. Can you explain to listeners how that would operate? You have an electric vehicle. Is it like charging a phone overnight to make sure you can use the phone for the entire next day without the battery losing charge? Explain to the listeners how that would work practically.
Okay, so you have to have a port that has enough power to charge overnight. So you're talking about higher voltages, which is not normally in installed in the infrastructure now. So we have some studies that say if trucks go over 10, if you have over 10 units of trucks, it's a major cost, and you're gonna have to coordinate with the power supply to get more energy to your business. So it's not the same thing as charging a phone where you have minimum energy requirements. A larger truck is going to require more energy. Now, as far as smaller cars, individual personal vehicles, if you have 3 or 4 people on a street getting an electric car, that's probably not, it's not going to overload the system or have a problem. But if everybody on the street has an electric car, unless you have solar power on site or some kind of power source on site, you're going to run into problems with infrastructure. And
So in a nutshell, you need to have an electric charging port, maybe in your carport or your garage or somewhere at your property, and you would charge the vehicle, say, overnight. But it would needing to do this would generate so much energy. Unless you have solar power, you're going to be paying a hefty light bill.
Yes, and you remember solar power is in the day, and you need to charge overnight. So you might have additional cost of having a battery on site, and then so that's the use cycle. Now I'm over the road,
and most homes as they are currently designed. I'm sorry, I'm saying most homes as they are currently designed are not fitted out for this kind of charging.
Exactly.
And plus, do live in apartment complexes and townhouse complexes. They are not set up in this way.
So if we can improve the technology where we have a fast charge, that would be beneficial. But that also is going to require a huge amount of energy at a short amount of time. So
do you foresee some of the gas stations being changed out into electric charging stations, or a hybrid setup where they sell gas as well as they sell or the service of charging the vehicle?
That's already happening in the U.S. So, but say you're charging your Tesla and it requires 400 volts. So that is not a normal power requirement. So you have to get with your utility to install the Tesla. Say you're charging your Tesla and you have a rainstorm and you're trying to plug that thing in. So you have considerations that have to be thought through carefully.
Yes, you don't want to be handling that in water, in rain. Yes, understood.
Right, and if you have flood events and you're standing in water trying to plug in your Tesla and you have a discharge, that would be a lawsuit.
And we have a lot of issues with flooding in Jamaica. We have an issue with the roads getting flooded in Jamaica. And if we have electric cars in that situation, well, you can probably tell us what would happen.
Well, they probably have safety devices on it so you can try and isolate and disconnect things in the event of a flood. But it's still, you're going to have damage and you could have electrocutions and stuff like that.
Because electricity and water don't mix at all. They should never, ever, ever, ever mix. I think we're totally out of time. We probably need to have a part 2 to this discussion because there are so many things we could have touched on and had no time to do so. Mr. Diamond, I want to thank you so much for your time and for your thoughts, sir, as well as Mr. Gayle. Very interesting conversation. I do think we need to book a part 2. Would you be both willing to return, sirs?
Definitely. It's always a pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure. Yes, a pleasure indeed. This one is a very interesting discussion. I want to thank Mr. Gayle and Mr. Diamond again. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow to look at other topical and controversial issues. Visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page for this and all other Love 101 FM programs, and listen to the Morning Watch on our Love 101 app. Download it today and stay connected to us, the family station, Love 101 FM, the #1 gospel station in Jamaica. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gayle, and to our guest. I am Stokely Marshall, hanging back Love in the Morning with Shivani.
This is Love 101, the family station. It's 8 o'clock.